We begin in Flint, Michigan. Emily Reynolds, a journalist known for her grit, received an intriguing assignment to investigate abandoned neighborhoods. Her curiosity piqued. She drove to the city outskirts towards the forgotten Willow Creek estate. It was a bright morning, but a strange unease settled upon her as she entered the deserted streets. The houses stood desolate, windows like vacant eyes staring back at her. A chill wind rustled through the trees, the only sound breaking the unsettling silence. Emily stepped out of her car, camera in hand, a knot of apprehension tightening in her chest. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the distant cawing of crows. It was as if the life had been sucked out of this place, leaving behind only an empty shell. She started documenting the eerie stillness, the overgrown lawns, the houses frozen in time. There was an unsettling beauty in the decay, a haunting reminder of what once was. The deeper Emily ventured into Willow Creek, the more palpable the unsettling atmosphere became. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. She felt an unnerving presence watching her every move. The houses were eerily similar, each one seemingly abandoned in haste. Toys lay scattered in yards, cars left in driveways, as if the residents had simply vanished into thin air. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the deserted streets, Emily felt a growing sense of unease. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of her own footsteps and the distant howling of dogs. She couldn't shake off the feeling that she was not alone, that she was being watched. The wind picked up, carrying with it a low, mournful whisper that seemed to come from the very heart of the abandoned neighborhood. This place held secrets. She could feel it in her bones. Emily, driven by her journalistic instincts, decided to spend the night in one of the empty houses. She chose a two-story house with a faded porch swing. Inside, dust lay heavy on every surface, and the air was thick with the smell of decay. Night fell, shrouding the house in an eerie darkness. Armed with only a flashlight and her recorder, she settled down in the living room. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 12 times, each clang resonating through the silent house like a death knell. Suddenly the temperature plummeted. Emily felt a cold breath on the back of her neck and heard the distinct sound of footsteps creaking on the wooden floor above her. Her heart pounded in her chest. Grasping her flashlight, she slowly made her way upstairs, her every sense on high alert. Each step was a trial, the silence amplifying every creak and groan of the old house. Reaching the top of the stairs, Emily swept her flashlight across the hallway. The room stood empty, yet the sound of footsteps continued, slow and deliberate, coming from the attic door at the end of the hall. As she reached for the doorknob, her phone rang, shattering the silence. It was her editor, his voice frantic and urgent. He screamed for her to leave the house immediately, his words tumbling over each other. Something was terribly wrong. Emily's blood ran cold. She didn't question him, didn't hesitate. Turning on her heel, she fled down the stairs, adrenaline coursing through her veins. As she raced out of the house and into her car, she could have sworn she saw a figure standing at the attic window watching her, its features obscured by the darkness. Emily's harrowing experience at Willow Creek Estate became a national sensation. Newspapers ran headlines like "Journalist Flees, Ghost Town" and "The Mystery of the Vanishing Neighborhood." Theories abounded, ranging from mass hysteria to government conspiracies. Some whispered of a mass exodus due to an environmental disaster, others of a cult's mass suicide. Days turned into weeks, then months. The mystery of Willow Creek remained unsolved, shrouded in an eerie silence. Then Emily Reynolds vanished. She was last seen heading back towards Flint, her car found abandoned on a desolate highway, the engine still running. Her camera was missing, along with her recorder and all her notes from Willow Creek. The only clue? A small metal chest tucked beneath the passenger seat. The disappearance of Emily Reynolds sent shockwaves through the nation. It breathed new life into the mystery of Willow Creek Estate. The abandoned neighbourhood became a subject of intense scrutiny, a macabre tourist attraction, and a breeding ground for conspiracy theories. Some whispered about a curse, an ancient evil lurking within the town's boundaries. They spoke of spectral figures, flickering lights, and the chilling sound of children's laughter echoing through the empty streets at night. Psychics and paranormal investigators flocked to the town, drawn by the promise of the unknown. They conducted séances, trying to communicate with whatever entities might be trapped in the town's ethereal web. But the spirits, if there were any, remained silent, their secrets buried deep within the decaying walls of Willow Creek. The town had become a symbol of fear, a testament to the unknown that lurked just beyond the veil of reality. The police investigation into Emily's disappearance hit dead end after dead end. The metal chest found in her car, however, offered a glimmer of hope. It was locked, its surface cold and unyielding. Inside, investigators hoped, lay the key to Emily's whereabouts and the truth behind the enigma of Willow Creek. Experts worked tirelessly, their every effort focused on unlocking the secrets held within the metal box. Days turned into weeks, the pressure mounting with each passing hour. Finally the lock yielded, revealing its contents, a handwritten note, a compass pointing stubbornly north, and an old leather-bound journal. The note, penned in Emily's handwriting, sent chills down the spines of even the most seasoned investigators. It was a single sentence, stark and chilling. The answers lie where the whispers gather. The discovery of Emily's belongings, especially the cryptic note, breathed new life into the investigation. The compass, pointing north, seemed to suggest a specific location, perhaps somewhere within the vast expanse of Willow Creek Estate. The journal, filled with Emily's meticulous notes and observations, became their guide. Her words, a chilling chronicle of her time in the ghost town, painted a picture of a place steeped in mystery and fear. She wrote of strange symbols etched onto the walls of the houses, of disembodied voices whispering her name, and an overwhelming sense of dread that permeated every corner of the abandoned neighbourhood. One particular entry sent chills down their spines. "I feel like I'm being watched, followed. They are here, I know it. They are the whispers in the wind." The mystery of Willow Creek Estate and Emily's disappearance remains unsolved to this day. The town stands as a stark reminder of the unknown, a testament to the mysteries that continue to baffle and intrigue us. The metal chest and its contents, now considered artifacts of a chilling, unsolved case, are kept under lock and key. They serve as a constant reminder of the journalist who ventured too close to the truth and the chilling enigma of the vanishing neighbourhood. Some believe that Emily found the answers she was looking for, that she uncovered a truth too terrifying to comprehend. Others believe she's still out there, lost somewhere in the labyrinthine heart of Willow Creek. But one thing remains certain. The whispers of Willow Creek Estate continue to echo, a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lie hidden in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered. And somewhere, in the unseen corners of our world, the question lingers, what happened to Emily Reynolds? The night was still, too still. An unnatural quiet had settled over the Pine Barrens, broken only by the hum of fluorescent lights at the lonely Crossroads gas station. Thomas Reid, a lanky teenager with restless eyes, was last seen there paying for a pack of cigarettes. He stepped back out into the night, and then he was gone. Vanished, as if swallowed whole by the oppressive darkness that pressed in on all sides. The attendant that night, a nervous man named Dale, remembered Thomas, remembered his nervous energy, the way he kept glancing over his shoulder as if something were watching him from the woods. But Dale hadn't seen anything. No car, no person, no sign of a struggle. Just the click of the door, the receding taillights of a logging truck on the highway, and then that unsettling silence, a silence that seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something terrible to unfold. The local police, hardened by years of dealing with petty thefts and the occasional drunk and disorderly, were not prepared for the complexity of Thomas's case. They had seen it all, or so they thought. To them, Thomas's disappearance was just another statistic, another runaway teen who would eventually come back or be found in some other town, living a new life. They had their hands full with other cases, and a missing teenager didn't seem like a priority. Dismissed Thomas's disappearance as a runaway case. They put up a few posters, made a couple of calls, but their efforts were half-hearted at best. The community, initially shocked, soon began to accept the police's narrative. After all, it was easier to believe that Thomas had left on his own than to consider the darker possibilities. Another troubled teen, they said, probably long gone, off to find himself and forget his troubles. The town had seen it before. Kids leaving without a word, seeking freedom or escape from their problems. It was a story as old as time, and the police were quick to file Thomas's case under the same category. They didn't see the need to dig deeper, to question the circumstances that led to his disappearance. Brian, however, refused to believe it. He knew Thomas better than anyone. He had seen the boy grow up, watched him face his struggles head-on. Thomas wasn't the type to run away from his problems. He was a fighter, someone who faced challenges with courage and determination. Brian couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. He knew Thomas, knew the boy wouldn't just disappear. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became that there was more to the story. He remembered the last conversation he had with Thomas, the fear in the boy's eyes, the urgency in his voice. Thomas had been scared, genuinely scared, and that wasn't something Brian could ignore. There was something more to it. He could feel it. It was a gut feeling, an instinct that he couldn't shake. Brian began to piece together the fragments of information he had, trying to make sense of the situation. He spent countless hours going over every detail, every conversation, every clue that might lead him to Thomas. The more he dug, the more he realized that the police had missed crucial details. A knot of dread tightened in his gut, a feeling that something was deeply, terribly wrong. He couldn't shake the image of Thomas's fearful eyes, the tremor in his voice. It haunted him day and night, driving him to keep searching, to keep asking questions. Brian knew he was running out of time, but he couldn't give up. He owed it to Thomas to find out the truth. Days turned into weeks, each one an agonizing hammer blow of silence. The town moved on, but Brian couldn't. He watched as the days slipped by, each one a reminder that Thomas was still out there somewhere. The silence was deafening, a constant reminder of his failure to find the boy. But Brian refused to let despair take over. He knew he had to keep going no matter how long it took. The police investigation, if you could call it that, had stalled. They had moved on to other cases, other priorities. Thomas's file gathered dust, a forgotten piece of a larger puzzle. Brian couldn't understand how they could be so indifferent, so willing to let a young boy's fate remain a mystery. It fueled his determination, his resolve to find the truth. Leads ran cold, tips turned out to be dead ends, and the locals, their initial concern fading into a grim acceptance, went back to their lives. The town's collective memory of Thomas began to fade, replaced by the daily grind of life. But Brian couldn't let it go. He couldn't accept that Thomas was just another lost soul, another name on a list of missing persons. But Brian couldn't let it go. He spent every waking moment thinking about Thomas, replaying their last conversation in his mind. He knew there was something he was missing, some piece of the puzzle that would make everything clear. He just had to find it. He became obsessed, driven by a need to uncover the truth no matter the cost. He could still see the fear in Thomas's eyes that last day, the way he looked over his shoulder as if expecting something to jump out at him. It was a look of pure terror, and it was burned into Brian's memory. He couldn't forget it, couldn't ignore it. It was the driving force behind his relentless search. Hear the tremor in his voice when he said, "Something's out there, man. Something's watching me." Those words echoed in Brian's mind, a haunting reminder of the danger Thomas had felt. Brian knew he had to find out what had scared Thomas so much, what had driven him to the point of disappearing. He couldn't rest until he had answers, until he knew the truth. Then came the gruesome discovery that shattered the uneasy peace of the small, tight-knit community nestled on the edge of the Pine Barrens. The discovery sent a chill down the spines of even the most hardened locals who had grown accustomed to the eerie legends that surrounded the forest. Deep in the heart of the Pine Barrens, a group of hunters, seasoned and familiar with the forest's many secrets, stumbled upon a clearing that would forever be seared into their nightmares. There, strewn amongst the gnarled pines and decaying leaves, were human skins. The sight was so grotesque, so utterly out of place, that it took them several moments to comprehend what they were seeing. Perfectly preserved, meticulously flayed, as if shed by some monstrous serpent, the skins were a horrifying testament to the unimaginable cruelty that had taken place. The news spread like wildfire, fanning the embers of fear into a raging inferno. The small town, once a place of quiet, rural charm, was now gripped by a palpable sense of dread. The skins, the coroner confirmed, belonged to 3 missing teenagers, all vanished without a trace in the past year. The revelation was a devastating blow to the community, which had held on to a sliver of hope that the teens might still be found alive. Thomas's disappearance, once a footnote in the local paper, was now headline news, inextricably linked to this macabre discovery. The connection between the missing teens and the gruesome find in the forest was undeniable. The police, their initial apathy replaced by a chilling realization of the horror unfolding in their own backyard, finally started to take notice. They cordoned off the area, turning the once serene forest into a sprawling crime scene. But for Brian, it was a confirmation of his darkest fears. He had always felt an inexplicable connection to the forest, a sense of foreboding that he could never quite shake. He knew with a sickening certainty that this was just the beginning. The forest held more secrets, more horrors waiting to be uncovered, and he feared that the worst was yet to come. As the investigation deepened, more questions than answers emerged. The map of the Pine Barrens, once a simple guide for hikers and hunters, now bore ominous red circles marking the locations of other mysterious disappearances. Detectives worked tirelessly, piecing together fragments of evidence, trying to make sense of the senseless. Theories abounded, from a deranged serial killer to something far more sinister and supernatural. Local historians were consulted, their dusty tomes and ancient maps revealing a history of strange occurrences and dark legends that had long been forgotten or dismissed as mere folklore. Around campfires, the old stories were retold with a new sense of urgency and fear. Tales of the Jersey Devil, ghostly apparitions and otherworldly beings that roamed the Pine Barrens at night. Families kept their children indoors, the once carefree days of playing in the woods now replaced by a constant vigilance. The community, bound together by their shared fear, waited with bated breath for the next revelation. The investigation continued, each new piece of evidence adding to the growing sense of unease. The town, once a haven of tranquility, was now a place of shadows and whispers, where every rustle of leaves could be a harbinger of doom. And through it all, Brian remained vigilant. He knew that the forest had not yet revealed all its secrets, and he was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. For in the heart of the Pine Barrens, the line between reality and nightmare had forever been blurred. Driven by a need for answers and a burning desire to find Thomas, Brian immersed himself in the investigation. Every waking moment was consumed by the mystery, and every lead, no matter how small, was meticulously followed. He knew that the key to finding Thomas lay hidden in the details, in the symbols and secrets that seemed to be scattered like breadcrumbs through the dark forest and the eerie town. He scoured the woods where the skins were found, searching for any clue, any shred of evidence that could lead him to the truth. The forest was dense and foreboding, its shadows playing tricks on his mind. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig made his heart race. He felt as though the trees themselves were watching him, ancient sentinels guarding their dark secrets. The ground was littered with fallen leaves and branches, making his search painstakingly slow. But Brian was relentless, driven by a determination that bordered on obsession. He found strange symbols carved into the bark of trees, ancient runes that seemed to whisper of forgotten rituals and dark primal forces. These symbols were unlike anything he had ever seen before, their intricate designs hinting at a knowledge long lost to time. He took photographs and made sketches, hoping to decipher their meaning. The symbols seemed to form a pattern, a map of sorts, leading him deeper into the heart of the forest. Each new discovery filled him with a mix of dread and excitement, as he felt he was getting closer to uncovering the truth. He discovered a hidden journal, its pages filled with disturbing drawings and cryptic entries that hinted at a twisted mind obsessed with death and the macabre art of preserving human skin. The journal was old and tattered, its pages yellowed with age. The drawings were grotesque, depicting scenes of ritualistic sacrifice and dark ceremonies. The writings were equally disturbing, filled with ramblings about ancient gods and forbidden knowledge. Brian could feel the malevolence emanating from the pages, a dark energy that seemed to seep into his very soul. The journal, he soon realized, belonged to someone named Richard Steele, a recluse who lived on the outskirts of town. Steele was a name that had come up before in his investigation, always shrouded in mystery and fear. The townspeople spoke of him in hushed tones, their eyes filled with a mix of fear and curiosity. Brian knew he had to find Steele to confront him and uncover the truth about his involvement in the dark events that had plagued the town. A man shrouded in rumour and whispered tales of strange practices and an unhealthy fascination with the occult. Steele was said to be a practitioner of dark magic, a man who dabbled in the forbidden arts. His house was rumoured to be filled with occult artifacts and strange symbols, a place where the veil between the living and the dead was thin. Brian felt a chill run down his spine as he thought about confronting Steele, but he knew it was a risk he had to take. As Brian delved deeper into Steele's life, a horrifying picture began to emerge. He found old photographs and documents that painted a picture of a man consumed by darkness. Steele's obsession with the occult had led him down a path of madness, and his experiments with human skin were just the tip of the iceberg. Brian uncovered hidden secrets in Steele's old house, each discovery more disturbing than the last. The house was a treasure trove of dark artifacts, each one telling a story of pain and suffering, a picture of a man driven by a twisted ideology, a belief system that saw human skin as a sacred canvas upon which to inscribe his own twisted vision. Steele believed that by preserving human skin, he could capture the essence of a person's soul, trapping it in his dark art. His sketches on the skin-like material were disturbing, filled with symbols and images that seemed to pulse with a dark energy. Brian felt a deep sense of revulsion as he stared at the artwork, but he knew he had to press on. The truth was within his grasp, and he was determined to uncover it, no matter the cost.